You're listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racky, a podcast for entrepreneurs looking to scale. This episode is brought to you by Proposify, software that streamlines your proposal process, impresses clients, and helps you close more deals. Head to proposify.com to start your free trial today.
Hey everyone, I am Kyle Racky, and today on the podcast, I am joined by Raphael Pauline I should have confirmed how to say your name before we started recording. Can you say it for us all, please?
Yeah, Raphael Pauline.
Okay, so there's no French accent to it. I assume there would be like a French accent, but...
I mean, you can. I just say Pauline, and then my mom kind of gets mad when she hears me say that, but... Usually I go by Pauline.
You know, we've met a few times, and we're on Facebook and stuff like that. So I always, because I don't know too many Raphaels, I always just call you Raphael. And do you accept Raph, or are you against that?
Oh, totally. I mean, most people call me Raph, so that's fine with me.
I mean, being blessed to have the name of a Ninja Turtle is just incredible.
Right?
Okay.
I like it.
For a minute there, I forgot you had a last name, because I think it's so good you could just go with it like Cher or Madonna. Like you could just be Raphael, no last name.
Yeah.
Okay, so as it's almost like a tradition on this show that I butcher the intro, so I follow the tradition very well today by butchering your intro. But I want to talk about you. You are the founder of an agency called Splitbase, which is conversion optimization, particularly in the fashion, lifestyle, and luxury brand market. And so you help them with e-commerce, increase conversions, get more sales online. And some of Splitbase's clients include L'Oreal, Best Self, and Kiehl's. I've got a few of those products, which is really cool. So we're going to dig into that. I also want to mention, too, that Raf's agency was featured on ecommercemagazine.com as one of the 9 agencies that are shaping the future of e-commerce, which is awesome. So we are going to dig into e-commerce, conversion optimization, and a bit about your agency itself and kind of how and why you dug into these specialties. So with no further ado, welcome to the show, Raph.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me, Kyle.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that where I originally met you was in 2012, and I think you were just in grade 12 or graduating high school?
I believe so. I tend to lose track of the past and years and things like that. But I would say, yeah, that would make sense. Probably grade 12 or something like that.
And I remember you won like a young entrepreneur award or something like that at like 18. You were doing this startup that was about it was in the retail market. Can you talk?
It was in luxury e-commerce.
Yes. So you've obviously this has been, a passion and an interest of yours for a long time now. I mean, how did you kind of start at that when you were still in high school, and like how did that sort of evolve into this agency?
So it's interesting because when I look at it, everything really started with conversion optimization. After, in my even younger years, I was a magician for a long time, right? And yeah, I did over 400 magic shows, starting when I think I was 11, until I can't remember what age, but for quite a few years.
Wow.
It kind of started with that, which is how I kind of got started into business, and I just wanted more, right? Knowing I couldn't scale a one-person business, I dove into marketing, which was always like, when I was a kid, I mean, some people were like going outside and playing hockey and everything. I like to sit in front of my computer and create fictional marketing plans. As crazy as it sounds, I just absolutely loved it. And every single time I kept falling into, okay, what can I do in terms of a business? And I fell into conversion optimization, probably because of my love of everything being optimized and just like being kind of crazy when it comes to that in my daily life.
Well, give us an example. How are you optimizing other areas of your life?
Oh my God. I wrote a blog post about this and I never published it because my assistant thought I was a little crazy.
Well, now let's hear it.
So, for example, I mean, just like biohacking wise, for example, I test absolutely everything that I eat. I have gut tests and DNA tests that are being done all the time. And then I don't like cooking and it takes too much time. So I hired someone to cook for me. and to find the recipes. So we have a project management system where we have pre-approved recipes based on the research that we have that are also approved by a nutritionist.
Whoa.
And then that is being ordered online by my personal assistant, and then that is being cooked, and the rest of the ingredients are being bought by my local assistant, who's going to cook and prepare everything for me, put it in Tupperwares in the freezer, everything ready for a whole week.
I would like to see
and at the same time,
I would hope that you're doing a multivariate test, and you're testing like a different chef with a different assistant. You know, I mean, just to see if there's any. Are you doing any of that stuff?
Trying a different chef would be a little complicated. I mean, you know, now that kind of became like an employee, right? It's like a local assistant, and but definitely trying different ways on like what is the most efficient way to get the recipes sent to my local assistant, or you know, I'm still taking too much time trying to find what are the best recipes for a particular week. So, you know, testing different systems for that is definitely something I'm doing.
That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, it is a little crazy. I'm gonna level with you. It's a little crazy, but it's working for you. And so this is it's just a passion for conversion and optimization and making things the best that they can be. And then what about, you know, fashion and luxury and all that kind of stuff? Are you just a fancy guy? You're into, you know, good clothes? Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know? Club Monaco.
So I think what I realized is when I was younger, every single marketing plan that would create or fictional business that I would create for fun would always be revolving around experiences and emotions. Really, how can we communicate? At one point, I wanted to have an experiential marketing agency, you know, for people to feel the emotions. And I've always loved art. And at the end of the day, things that really create bold emotions to the customer, or just to people in general, is what I've always been attracted to. And I realized the world of luxury is, when we look at retail and e-commerce, which I love, you know, luxury is the one area where kind of like art, you know, the purchase is really driven by emotion and not necessarily by logic, right? No one goes out to buy a $5,000 bag because of its number of pockets or because of, you know, its zipper and strap being practical, right? If you want that, you can get it for $100. Now, the whole purchase is about the experience, the value, and the thing they're buying into, right? It's the brand, but it's also the feelings that it creates, both in terms of the purchase experience, but also, you know, when you're wearing that pair of shoes or that bag or that t-shirt or whatever, you know, how does it make you feel? So it is a purchase, a type of purchase, and the whole purchase cycle is very emotionally driven, more than logic. I mean, if we want to get into the details, we still need to mix logic into it for the emotional purchase to happen. Yeah. But generally, it's very emotionally driven, and that's what I find fascinating. You know, how do we make people feel really good, make people feel like, you know, yeah, they can achieve whatever they want if, you know, it's all about, you know, people expressing themselves. You know, when we look at fashion, I see fashion as a way for people to communicate, but also a way to showcase your values and things like that. So it is very personal, but it is also very external, which I find fascinating, which is why I love it.
Yeah, I'm thinking so much of my girlfriend right now. She's, you know, ever since I've been with her, I've tried to up my style game a little bit. And she's just so into it. And I see her like on her iPad, just looking at all these different sites. Like, I didn't even know a lot of these websites exist, that she's looking at clothes and bags. And, you know, we take a trip to New York last year, and she's got the spots in mind that she wants to go to. And you obviously know the customer and the buyer very well, which is, I think, very interesting when we talk about transitioning this to a service model where you're helping brands like L'Oreal increase sales online. How much research do you need to do into their customers? Are you talking to people who buy L'Oreal products to try to increase conversion?
100%. Yeah, that's one of the biggest aspects of what we do. At one point, I even wondered if it would be more appropriate to call us a research firm than a conversion optimization agency. Because unlike a lot of other agencies that only look at like the quantitative and the numbers behind a website, because luxury is so personal and there's so much emotion involved, we dive into the customers to a point where we actually get to know the customer better than our clients really.
Wow.
I would say 99% of the time. I mean, it never happened that, we brought our research and then showed them some of the insights and nothing was new to them. Every single time they think they know everything about their customer, they think they know the objections, they think they know so many things about their customers, but then every single time, after the initial research process, we come and we sit together and it's like, oh my God, they're like, we never ever thought our customers didn't buy because of these reasons, or that they had certain things going on in their lives. So yeah, the research aspect is huge, and we're always trying to find ways on, how can we dive even deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Just, on my way to work this morning, I listened on podcasts about emotions and researchers and things like that. It's always about understanding the subconscious, really.
Walk me through the process when working with, say, a new client or an existing client.
Yeah.
So, L'Oreal Kiehl's says to you, increase our online sales. What's kind of, there's so many different research tactics from user testing to whatnot. What's sort of your key process you and your team go through?
So here's what a lot of companies think of conversion optimization. They jump in and they think we'll, just look at the website and we'll launch A/B tests. That's really not it. The way that it works is every single company that we work with, every single one, we begin with what we call the conversion blueprint, which is just to establish a baseline, get all the information we can initially about the customer, what areas of the website is leaking money, and what are the biggest, low-hanging fruits. And so that process, what it looks like, it's usually like a full month of interviewing their customers, sending very specific qualitative surveys. And I say that because, most brands send surveys that are number-based, right? They're quantitative surveys. And even though that's how most market researchers learn how to do, market research, we're not doing market research for the sake of creating graphs or anything. We're asking very specific questions that a lot of times traditional market researchers thought was stupid and thought you would get no value out of them.
What's an example of that?
What's going on in your life that made you buy X product, right? So that's one. Or it could be, tell us more about yourself. I don't know if I can't remember if that's exactly how we phrase it, but it seems very, very broad, right? But we have a mix of questions that are very broad, and that in order to gain value out of it, you need to know how to analyze it. But what we realized by asking these questions, we could understand things. When you have really large data sets, you start seeing correlations into, what's going on in people's lives. And people are very descriptive, more than you would ever think on these answers. And you start realizing things about their subconscious that themselves will never admit. So, for example, the reason of buying maybe a $200-$300 jar of cream, they won't say it's because, I don't know, they can show it off to their friends or talk about it. That would make more sense for for a purse, let's say. Let's say this woman is buying a purse and she's buying the Louis Vuitton monogram bag, right? Which, when we look at it, is a little more appealing to people who want to show the brand. Different market segments, have different needs. But they'll never say, oh yeah, I'm buying this because I want to impress people. Or in North America, people buy luxury because they want to show their success. So very few people are going to say, hey, I bought this because I want to show that I'm successful.
Right.
Now, when we ask very strange questions along the way, mixed with more direct questions, we can start to understand what is their conscious explanation and their justification for buying a product, and what are the subconscious things that they would never say. But once you have a whole lot of questions around this, you can start finding correlations. And it takes a lot of time. It's a lot of work. That's why very few companies actually do such qualitative research.
I bet, probably what clients are used to is demographic stuff. Are you male or female?
100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's your salary range or anything like that?
Yep. Rate from 1 to 10, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not giving there are so many pieces of information that you would never thought of asking for, that if you let the space for the survey respondent, for the customer to respond, they'll give you gold.
Yeah. And are you just doing surveys? Are you doing any phone calls, any group interviews, stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. So we don't really do local focus groups. What we're going to do is, let's say we have survey answers that we want to dive into. We'll go from the survey answers and then call up the customers in that case. One thing to note is also we'll do like, when we do the surveys, and we also launch polls and different types of surveys, right? So qualitative is a big thing, but we'll also look at those who converted, those who became and who are customers, and those who are not yet customers. And from there, we can also establish different correlations and different patterns into, okay, what it takes to get people from one side to the other. And we'll do a lot of user testing, right? Session recording, looking at how people behave, mouse tracking, a lot of things like that.
Right. And it's always so nice to pair quantitative and qualitative. And I think some people have become so addicted to quantitative. They love their graphs, their dashboards. They love seeing the what. And it's so often, and this is why I'm a big fan of it for my own product and my own company, is just getting on the phone with customers or sending out a survey 100%. And hearing what people say when you're not dictating, a yes or no answer. It's very insightful. And you often, and I'm sure you guys do this too, you'll find patterns in what people say and then use their own words on the website.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, look, our mutual friend Dan Martell has this process he calls Smile and Dial, where every week, he just calls up customers out of the blue without asking for permission or anything. And I think that is like an art that's been lost, especially like when we look at e-commerce companies, a lot of SaaS companies, well, digital first companies, right? You like to be behind your screen, and that's how you win your ads. So we kind of forget that one-on-one touch with the customer. But just talking with them, it gives you so many insights and the words they use, the phrase they use, the words of customer, right? The voice of customer is incredible. I mean, we've increased sales of an e-commerce store by 21% just by changing the wording to using the voice of customer, right? To the words that the customer would use. And, it's a $10 million brand, increased sales 21%. It's significant. That's pretty significant. Right? So, it's just, and that all came, I would say, quantitative research to guide the qualitative research and understand what needed improvement. But after understanding that the product pages were where people got stuck, then let's do qualitative to understand why people are stuck there.
So with Proposify, one thing that we had done, this was a few years back, and we still use it to this day, is we always ask people why they signed up for a trial whenever they came in. Yeah. And then we just looked at all of their answers in a spreadsheet, and pretty much, I don't remember what the number was, but like 50%, let's say, or more, used the word streamline and said, I wanted to streamline my proposal process or my sales process. So that became the headline on the site and it's pretty much stayed that way for years, is streamline your sales process or your proposal process. What's an example of, anything that you can talk about that you've done for a client that you say like, okay, we did this research, we found people were talking about this a lot, we started using it on the website and it's had an impact?
So I think the one example that really stands out is for this natural deodorant company that we work with. For a long, long time, they wanted to remove the word natural from their branding and from their brand because they thought the natural part would give a preconception to people that natural deodorants don't work, which was also true. And we found in the research that most people think that natural deodorant don't work. So we had to overcome that obstacle. That being said, we found that over like 90% of customers bought it because it was natural. And that was a key trend that we also saw through our other clients is, people buy it very specifically for natural. So if you're removing the one thing and you're not making it clear if it's natural, it could definitely hurt the brand. Or it's going to take a lot more efforts to re-educate the market that your natural deodorant that you don't say is natural is natural. Right. And even if we said fully natural deodorant, 100% natural deodorant or all organic, all natural, people were still asking questions like, is it really truly natural? Right. So we're like, oh, well, if we remove that, chances are high that that's just going to create more questions than answers. Yeah. And you're going to completely shift segments. And it's like if you'd be building a new brand. Right. So that would be ill advised. So instead, we focused on, all right, no, let's keep natural deodorant. But let's find out how did people get convinced to buy a natural deodorant when they've tried so many that never worked? So we took the information that we found in the research and then added that into the content of the website. And ultimately, that led to an increase in a few millions. But it's exactly because we looked at the data. We're like, okay, well, here's an assumption. And now let's look at the data and let's look at the strategy that's the easiest and that has the highest chance of impact to execute.
Thing I like about that story too is that sometimes I think, for starters, a lot of people don't test anything, which is, everybody knows they should be testing, but they just tend not to. They don't put in the work.
Yep.
But I think sometimes when they decide to test, it's a lot of just guesses and they go, let's throw stuff up there and just see what happens. But what's interesting here is that through the research, you actually figured out what not to change, not what not to remove.
Exactly.
Whereas, like you said, if you had have taken out natural and run that for X number of weeks or months, you might have found that, like, okay, it killed sales for that time period. Walk me through a little bit of your business development process, because as a recovering web design agency owner, sales is tough. And especially, we all know that we need to niche, we need to specialize and become very targeted. But does conversion optimization is it ever a tough sell to a client who says, like, oh no, I just need a new website, I don't need you to test the existing one? Is that ever anything you have to like really kind of walk them through the benefits of?
For sure. So what I found out is that, number one, I mean, we also charge premium prices because the service, we charge based on value, right? So for a client to be willing to pay that amount of money on a monthly basis, they need to understand their needs for conversion optimization, and they need to understand that this solution is exactly what they need. So what we realize is if companies approach us and they're not sure, or they don't really know much about conversion optimization, chances are they'll never become a client until they're really ready and they're aware of it. It is. I think it's becoming easier, but there is still. I mean, it's not known compared to search engine optimization or PPC or anything like that, right? People are likely going to search, how to increase my conversions, but not a lot of people are going to say conversion optimization. If I say, hey, we do conversion optimization, a lot of people are going to be, oh, is it like SEO or PPC?
Right.
So, so we never end up working with the people that say that, because we know that they won't have that level of awareness of what it takes to do our work. And they might just think that, we're just launching an A/B test and there's no process to it. Whereas, sometimes we're working nearly full time on the research during the research period on that one project. And there's so much stuff involved. Just launching the test, like, Optimizely says you can do drag and drop. Well, no, you shouldn't. So we code everything. But clients don't know that. So the bigger obviously, I think like any other product, the bigger their level of awareness is about the service and what it is, I think the easier the sale is going to be. But there's still a lot of education that needs to be done. And sometimes, they're not familiar with CRO or the term specifically, but they'll come to us and they're like, hey, well, I really need to improve the payment step of our checkout flow, or the navigation bar feels confusing, or people can't find what they're looking for. So they're coming to us mostly for sometimes UX improvements and things like that, which leads into, a much bigger thing eventually.
Right. Do you ever have to fight with designers that work internally at the clients? Because I bet they're probably like, these assholes come telling me my button's too small or whatever.
So generally, the companies we work with, their designers have been really good at listening to us. As for and generally what we're going to do is, let's say we don't build websites from scratch, but we do, based on data, we do data-driven website redesigns. Which is the same process, but instead of, just doing a variation, we'll start with a new baseline. And in that case, then we have our own conversion designer. Who knows how to use the research and works with our team and everyone here and just make sure that the conversion is built for how people look at a web page, how people use a certain web page and things like that. So no, the answer is, although yes, sometimes bigger companies, there could be a little more pushback, but we always come with a whole lot of data that says at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to go against the data. And we're very clear with our clients, we're not here to make you super happy about the design or anything. And, they'll love our designs. but we're not there to just listen to you and say yes and yes and yes and yes. Yeah. We're here to make you more money. And at the end of, our minimum commitment, if we say yes to you and that means that we're not making you more money, we're going to be out and we're not going to be happy. We won't have case studies. We won't be able to really serve you at our best of our abilities, and you won't be happy either. Yeah. So the client need to understand that, look, we're the experts, and we'll work with your brand guidelines. We'll work with your design. We won't do anything crazy or spammy looking. We look at your brand and you're a customer. We get it, right? But from there, you got to trust us, and you have to understand that, this is not a matter of personal preferences. We come with data, and we're gonna test things and implement things that are gonna be validated.
Yeah. And I'm sure part of choosing a really good market to go after, such as luxury and high-end fashion brands, is unlike, say, working with maybe a government agency or a corporate real estate brand or something like that. They're in the business of making money. Like, yeah, of course, their brand's important. They need to protect and preserve that. But ultimately, like, there shouldn't be somebody at the top who just wants their ego stroked. Like, they want to push product. They want online orders, right? So does that become easier for them to trust you and just say, okay, whatever's going to help us increase sales, we'll go for it?
Yeah, generally, I mean, once you bring them case studies, and on average, I would say we increase sales. So sales, not conversions, but actual sales number, by an average of around 20% generally. And we work with, brands that do above 5 million. So that's significant. And we've had some companies, we've increased revenues by much, much more for some others. That's, pretty average. So generally we look at that and it's like, okay, well, they realize they're likely going to make a few million more, and, that's going to boost your marketing ROI by way over 10x. Yeah. Sometimes, I mean, we had a client with, I think it was a 30,000% ROI on the services. Wow. Right? So it's like, at the end of the day, they're always unsure at the beginning, but once you start proving them that, look, like, this is, we know what we're doing, and it worked for X many brands in the same industry and everything, that's where they're like, okay, well, as long as I can get the budget approved.
That's awesome.
It should be good.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you kind of have this minimum of $5 million a year as far as the clients you work with, which I'm sure also probably helps you sell those more premium prices, because you're not going after like somebody, I just started up a t-shirt company out of my van, right? Yeah. What's the difference for you between going to, say, a brand that does $5 million a year, which really isn't huge. It's a good baseline, but it's not massive. Whereas, like, I'm sure I haven't done my research. L'Oreal is probably doing more than 5 million, let's say. Right. What's the difference in terms of business development for you as an agency owner to go? Like, are the other smaller companies calling you and saying, "Come work with us," or do you go to them? Or for the bigger guys, do you have to really kind of try to get in the door with the right person, book the right meetings, all that kind of stuff?
It depends. See, we've had clients, 6-figure deals that were closed in 2 calls. Wow. No in-person meeting, 2 calls, done. Wow. Now, that does not happen all the time. But generally we can get pretty fast, and it depends on the time period, right? Like right now it's the holidays. We have a few deals that, we had 2 calls, 2 projects for, big projects, for these 2 brands, but then the holiday happens, and then, people go on mat leave, and then some people are only back, way later. So obviously that really stretches the deal close time. But when we look at, compared to other agencies, and I'm not too sure, like in conversion optimization, generally how long it takes for a deal to close, but generally like digital marketing or e-commerce development, it can take upwards 6 months. And of course, we've had some clients that we've been working on for a year. And more. But we've been really lucky lately where decisions have been able to be made fast by the leaders in those companies. They see it's a need, and I think that is the main thing, right? Once they've realized it's a need, and it is a service that will help them make more money. It's not just a nice to have. It is something that it's a solution, right? It's a painkiller. So biz dev wise, it's LinkedIn. A lot of people come to us from LinkedIn, some of it from our content. We're really the only agency that talks and blogs about luxury conversion optimization or fashion conversion optimization and things like that. And we're only getting started. Like it's, and
awesome.
and I would say mostly referrals. 90% of our clients came from referrals from other clients mostly. So I think, do I like that everyone comes from referral? Yes, in a way that it's like, I guess we do good work, but in a way it's also unpredictable. Yes. So we're building other channels. I've had great success going to events and meeting people. I'm going to Luxury First next week in New York, and
what I love about that is you're not going to a CRO event. Maybe you do that too, but you're going where the fish are. Right? This is a lesson for 100%. People like running agencies. Is if you're an inbound marketing agency, don't go to inbound. Go to inbound if you want to learn more or something, but it's the clients aren't there. You're just there with competition. Like, go where your actual audience is going to be.
Yeah, 100%.
I had another question, and it was related to, so for clients, if you could work with any brand in the world, if your agency could, who would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm probably overthinking this question because I'm like, some would be really, really sexy in terms of, working with them, and it would be great, but I'm not, depending on how their internal structure looks like, maybe would not want to work with them. I think, obviously flagship brands, like Gucci or Louis Vuitton or brands like that would be fantastic just because of, there are, in the whole luxury world, there are lighthouses, right? They set the trend. And even Gucci, they're the most profitable, fastest growing luxury company to date. They've just been incredibly successful in the past quarters, mostly because, it's no surprise that they've got one of the best websites in the whole luxury industry as well, an e-commerce experience. But yeah, I think, some of these brands, I know most of them have already internal teams, but they'd be for sure fantastic clients.
Well, if anyone from Gucci or Louis Vuitton is watching this podcast or this YouTube video, give Splitbase a call. People should check out your blog, splitbase.com. If they want to check out information related to A/B testing, conversion optimization, anywhere else people should go to check you out, Raph?
On LinkedIn, really. Follow me on LinkedIn or add me on LinkedIn. I write on there maybe 3 times a week, way more than the blog. Obviously, LinkedIn doesn't allow you to write crazy, crazy long stuff as updates, but usually they're going to be very quick and concise, actionable stuff that I try to post. And I know people have been really big on the LinkedIn rag to riches stories lately, but I try to post things that are very informational as a business sense, right? So it's like business actions to take in order to increase your conversions or improve your brand in e-commerce. So yeah, Raphael Paul-Daigle on LinkedIn.
Well,
post a lot of stuff on there.
I want to congratulate you, Raph, for all your success with your agency, and for also the recent mention on ecommercemag.com. That must feel pretty good. And I want to thank you for taking the time to be on this show and share your insights with our listeners.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kyle. It was a pleasure to be here, and looking forward to listening to it.
Absolutely.
I never listened to my interviews.
You should. It's always a painful experience.
Maybe I should.
I don't like looking at myself smile on YouTube. I always think I look like a rube or a bumpkin or something, but
I totally agree. I can't watch myself in those videos.
All right, thanks guys for checking this out. Remember to go to splitbase.com, and this show and all the show notes will also be on proposify.com/podcast/episode 071. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening to the Proposify Biz Chat with Kyle Racky. For more episodes, check us out on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Click subscribe to get updated on the latest episodes, and be sure to rate and review.